Over to probably the most famous pillow maker in the history of mankind, Mike Lindell, the founder of the company My Pillow, who I'm sure you know about, was found to have defamed a company called Smartmatic, which provides voting machines for U.S. presidential elections. A federal judge ruled on Friday. So not a good ruling in his favor there. Not that it's over yet for him, but the judge found that Lindell made false statements that its machines helped rig the 2020 presidential election. Lindell went on a media frenzy after the 2020 election, making public statements allegingly that a variety of different voting machine companies helped to rig the election, and saying specifically on Friday that Smartmatic is one of the most corrupt companies in the world and vowed to keep fighting until its voting machines are, quote unquote, melted down and turned into prison bars. If you followed Mike from like day one doing My Pillow, he's evolved quite exponentially. This is going to get extremely interesting, though, as Mike, better known as the My Pillow guy, just reestablished his residence in Minnesota as a big step in what is widely being considered as a very likely future run for governorship against the current governor, Tim Walz. Now, these voting companies went after defamation suits hard against a lot of the conservative news outlets, suing and reaching settlements with Newsmax, One American News Network, and actually has one still pending against Fox News. It is widely known that Old Dominion's lawsuit against Fox News was settled with the contingency that Tucker Carlson would also be fired from the network as well. These lawsuits run very deep. Very deep. I mean, if anyone has a beating heart in the last 5 to 10 years, Tucker Carlson was the face of conservative news. And to take out a figure like that is not something that's done typically in 5 to 10 years or 15 years. Really, it really doesn't. Now, there was a lot of ammo that you could shell out regarding how ballots during the 2020 election were counted and how much of an absolute mess it was with mail-in ballots. There's so much ammo there. I just don't see the evidence against the voting machines, though. I think it's a far reach. The mail-in ballots, absolutely, though. I think everybody can see how obvious that was. My own personal experience with mail-in ballots. In 2020, I was going in to vote myself into the building to vote in, and when I went in, they told me I cannot cast my vote on the machine. It can only be done in what's called a provisional ballot, which is a paper ballot. And they told me that it would be counted within 2 weeks after the election. Insane. Citing COVID, that I was not allowed to use a voting machine. And they would be counted within 2 weeks of the election. What is that? That's insane. I also received the ballot, the mail-in ballot of the person who previously lived in the apartment that I currently lived in. So say a woman named Susan moves out, I then move in, and 6 to 8 months later, I actually received her ballot, and I could have casted a vote on her behalf because I opened it, and it was literally just the check marks. You put it back in the envelope, and you send it out. So I could have voted for her and for myself. My own family's paper ballots were sent to the wrong address. All 5 of us. We had to request new paper ballots because whoever was in charge of sending the paper ballots out, the mail-in ballots, sent all 5 of ours to a different address. So we had to request them. So somebody else got 5 of our mail-in ballots. Somebody else did. That could have casted 5 votes on our behalf. And then it's like, well, who's counting and who's adding up double votes? You know, when I go in and try to use a machine, they tell me, no, you can only use paper. And then I turn over my paper ballot. Who's counting the, okay, well, this person voted here, but then somebody else who got their paper ballot voted on their behalf in this county. I mean, who's matching that up? It just is an absolutely insane how that was. So I really think that there was a lot with mail-in ballots, but the voting machines, I don't see it. You know, with defamation lawsuits, you need to generally have to prove 2 things, though. Were the damaging statements that were made actually false? With this ruling, the court is ruling that the assertions and statements Mike made were indeed false. In terms of damages, you then need to consider the next component, which is B, the intent of the statements. Were these statements made maliciously? Now, so number 1, is it true or false? And number 2, what were the intent? So just because you do say something that is true doesn't mean that, you know, you're off the hook from defamation, because somebody could be who's fat, who's walking down the street. Yeah, I mean, if I start yelling out, this person's fat, look at this horse, this whale. I mean, technically, is it correct? Yes. But B, what is my intent? I'm just being an asshole, right? So there could be a defamation clause in that. And then, you know, to beat a defamation lawsuit in total, you really need to prove that what you said was true, and B, what your intent behind it, there wasn't maliciousness behind it. The most famous defamation case, I think, is the Alex Jones case, where he said, like, this in regards to the Sandy Hook shooting, that the parents were like, that it never happened. And like the parents were like making up that their kids got killed, and he went down the full conspiracy on that. And, you know, people wonder why Alex Jones got hit with over $1 billion in monetary damages. And it is because of those 2 components he severely violated. A, what he said was obviously completely untrue, that the shooting didn't happen. And then B, what were his intentions behind it? Well, he was saying it to be an asshole. He was saying it to gain social media views and to gain monetization on his own channels. So it was like the worst violations you could commit in speech, which is why that fine was over $1 billion. I don't know if anyone can ever top that either. They will, in Mike Lindell's case, though, have a tough time proving this part, because even the district judge has said that there are, quote-unquote, genuine fact disputes, and also continuing to question that Mike had knowledge that what he was saying was false, and that he made them with reckless disregard to their falsity. So the judge is saying that he didn't necessarily have them. You know, because Mike, especially if you saw him speak, he did have an unwavering belief that his statements were truthful. So to make that argument on maliciousness is what the judge is kind of pulling into question there.